forest will thrive. Welcome to another video by the Blue Tongues of Hell for some more Hilda Chronicles. This chapter is called Howling Cauldron. Instead of heading into town, Hilda had somewhere else to be. Voluspa was expecting her and had arranged to give her safe passage. The giant spiders, spinning their webs above her head, coordinated their movements and spread the ash branches accordingly to let light columns squeeze through the rustling canopy to guide her to the Huldra. A last column of light brought Hilda to the mouth of Bloody Hoof Caves. But Voluspa was not waiting for her. The canopy thickened, and the forest was almost dark again, as it was during the night. The caves glowed red, like an invitation to rest beside a fire. But what else could she do? To flee would be madness, and to stay put and be at the mercy of every vicious predator of the forest would be suicide. A young boy of about 6 grabbed Hilda's hand to lead the way into the tunnels. She gave out a cry of fright, but didn't resist. The child's skin was dark grey, and his stout body was swaddled in an unusual bile-coloured fabric from his ankles up to the neck. The arms remained bare, as did his feet, and long obsidian black locks hid most of his facial features, like thin reeds masking a midnight pond. "May I ask where you are taking me, young lad?" asked Hilda with the sweetest voice she could manage. The boy swiveled his eyes to one side, but avoided replying. "You do know who I am, don't you? Perhaps a little gift might unlock your lips." The boy emitted a low sound of someone exhaling hot air to warm their hands. Although the caves were getting warmer as they walked together, hand in hand, down the sloped tunnel. He slowly huffed once more, as if letting out his first words after years of seclusion. "I know Hilda of Ogni." "How delightful," replied Hilda, fiddling with her satchel's contents. "Then I hope you know that I'm someone you need to protect. Princess, yes, that I am. And to reward you on your mission to keep me safe, I have this special item I hope you'll grow to appreciate, she said, pulling out a golden apple from her bag. I know, it doesn't look like much, she continued, trying to ignore the scary shadows bouncing off the orange cave walls. But I will have you know that this small object once belonged to a goddess. You roll your eyes, I understand. I was the same the first time I heard about it. Hilda paused. She had never been this far into the caves. There had been a curious sound floating through the air since they entered, and it was growing louder as they descended. Hilda even thought that the ground was a bit rubbery, stretching organically at every step. Hilda squeezed the boy's hand when a loud, muffled thud resounded around them. A distinct oozing could be heard in the expanding walls that looked like the bowels of a giant worm. After a darker passage in the cave, where the sounds were deadened, Hilda saw a bright underground garden through a damp corridor. The older boy tugged her hand and made no attempt to explain the strange lights that produced no smoke. Hurry up, he requested. Hilda shook her head and drank a few drops from her leather pouch. Those lights. I'll have that crone tell me what those are all about. To keep her mind off the tunnel's absurdities, she continued the tale. Well, one day, the fruit fell from one of Goddess Idun's trees into a river. That river froze and became a glacier. When the earth split open and rivers of fire flowed wild, the ice melted, and as soon as the frozen apple touched the molten rock, it turned into gold. Hilda spoke with dazzling eyes. One of my ancestors stumbled across the apple while tilling the land. Believe me not, but he was granted extended life. He lived for decades, outliving anyone he had grown up with or loved. And in the end, he chose to donate this prestigious item to a complete stranger. Why? I wish I knew. But he made the man promise that he would also give it away to a stranger, only when he had filled his cup with enough experiences to quench the thirst of a desert. One sultry day of summer, the golden apple found its way into my family. Fadir broke the silly tradition and gave the apple to me on the day Modir died. Hilda contemplated the golden purple, and saw reflections of iron blackbirds pass by. The sculpted metal birds in chromium alcoves reminded her of King Ogni's ravens on the banks of Elivargar River. The boy tugged Hildred's hand again and resumed her monologue, not really caring about the metallic clang of black steps beneath her boots. So, do you know why I want you to have it now? The boy shrugged his shoulders, feigning an aloof manner. Well, because it is good to remember that the world's most extravagant and rare treasures are worthless when hell looks you in the eyes, or when there's nobody left to protect or love. Here, you take good care of it, and when you understand what I meant, offer it to someone else. The boy's dark eyes lit up when he let go of Hilda's hand to touch the golden apple. He gave furtive looks left and right to check if anyone was watching, and hid the trinket in an inside pocket beneath his tunic of straps. Wait, he said, pulling out a folded ash leaf from another concealed pocket. He held out the leaf pouch that contained something within. For you. What is it? Elsot, the sweet, the Drogar, the Huldra, love to make Elsots. My gift to you, Hilda, daughter of King Ogni and late Queen Skeggold, heir to the throne. Second in line, and unofficially betrothed to Hedil, adopted son of King Jarl and Queen Asgard. Aren't you the chattering chaffinch when you want to be, with such enticing details to share? Tell me more about this. Adopted Prince Hedil? Asked Hilda, not believing what she was hearing. First, you must taste my gift. That Helsot is my mother's speciality. It is called a scullycomb. Don't be afraid. No one means you any harm here. Is that so? Hilda said, unwrapping the sweet. Inside the ash leaf was a powdery white bonbon, oddly shaped as a human skull. Hilda did not feel compelled to taste it the slightest, but she could somehow sense an orange glow in its core. I don't feel too comfortable eating gifts from strangers, and the Death's Head does wave a few alarm flags, you know. You'll love it, said the boy, unwrapping one for himself. As soon as he had plopped the skull into his mouth, he winced at first, then gradually beamed with joy. You don't strike me as a woman who gives up easily. Try to enjoy the first few moments. The ending will only be the sweeter. Hilda found it peculiar how the boy's sudden improved elocution made him sound older. But she couldn't resist the Scullycomb's appeal any longer and placed it on her tongue. The first image that came to mind was licking apple vinegar off a pine forest path. Then, as it melted, a blooming symphony occurred in her mouth. A musical sunset, a mixture of love and death, an accumulation of every living being's existence, crystallized in a single taste of honey. Oh, hell! Expired Hilda euphorically. Quite the mouthful for such a small morsel. Little boy, you haven't poisoned me, have you? Of course not, or you would have been dead a long time ago, said the boy, tossing the apple down a shaft. The rare smile illuminating Hilda's face evaporated. What? Explain yourself. The sinister kid's personality shifted again. With sheathed, slit eyes, he appeared to be judging Hilda. Ah, yes, I forgot. You wanted to know about the prince. Well, the man you like to spend time with under the shade of the Idun oak trees is the son of... With the discretion of a ghost, Voluspa fell out of a ceiling trapdoor and landed with the agility of a spider. Sune, our skeptical Princess Hilda doesn't have time for gossip and hellsots. The boy stuffed his clothes with his leaf wrapping and scampered off before Voluspa could scold him. Sorry, mother. I know you are, Kitsune. Gossip and hellsots do go down well together, I have to admit, said Hilda, whose brief lapse of joy had already wilted. Careless talk leads to dead ends in these caves, said Voluspa. I'm pretty sure that sounds like a threat. My safety here was said to be guaranteed. Was the boy lying? Sune hasn't acquired that human quality yet, said Voluspa elusively. Anyhow, you are here, and I have something else to show you that you might enjoy, even more than Scullycombs, cinder nuts, or stab apples. You've piqued my curiosity. Well, follow me then, young raven. Hilda walked behind the short blonde sexagenarian who wore her hair in a long plait over a dress made of the same leathery fabric as the boy's tunic. Strips of dark, swaying leather hung from a silver ring around her neck and molded her feline body. Below bare shoulders, her arms were swaddled in leather too, all the way down to her fingertips. Voluspa stopped at the bottom of a black stairway. A short corridor led to a large wooden door that wavered slightly. It wasn't perceptible straight away, but it looked like a translucent curtain was blocking the way on the last step. Voluspa stepped right through the screen, but Hilda hesitated a short moment. She imagined her hair and clothes getting singed, and she certainly didn't want her mind to get fried. The door ahead split in two and slid in opposite directions into a wall of ancient gnarled bark. "Come," said Voluspa, inviting her in. Hilda closed her eyes and hurried through the invisible wall. She stepped into a large chamber, unlike any Hilda had ever seen or dreamt of. The ochre ceiling was curved at the sides, like a chiseled acorn. It was also opaque, a bit like the strips of leather Voluspa was wearing. Slithering roots were visible, though, through the ceiling, where a faint flaxen yellow light lingered. The floor was rough granite rock, carved in sun rays, leading to the center of the room, where stood a fascinating well. "What is that?" asked Hilda, whose perspiring face reflected the Arctic blue flames dancing about in the stone brick well. "Your folk call it Ifelgelmir, the magical spring where the ice of the divine met the fire of the underworld and created the 12 rivers," said Voluspa, giving Hilda a wink. "Have you heard of the Needhogger? The monster our parents scare us about as kids. A dragon that devours those who are guilty of oath-breaking or murder," replied Hilda, watching the mesmerizing blue tongues lick the rim of the well. "And adultery. They say that this dragon lives in this very well, ready to cleanse the world of all evil. Would you like me to tell you a secret, Hilda of Ogni and Skeggold?" Hilda nodded lackadaisically. "There is no Needhogger living at the bottom of the howling cauldron. Only cold flames and a means to an end." Hilda only just realized that the well of fire was not giving off any heat. She stepped forwards to take a closer look, and Voluspa snatched her wrist. Caution, young lady. You might find it foolish to fear what is unknown, but it is also sometimes wise. Voluspa let go of Hilda's arm and added, You may stroke the flames, but do not look down. Not today. Hilda wiped her wet forehead, although the air was getting colder near the fire. Side effects of the scullycomb sweet, perhaps? Or was it the giddy sensation of discovering something new in these boring Norse lands? Nonetheless, Hilda felt an inexplicable connection with the hypnotic blue flames. She raised her eyes above the well's rim and gingerly placed a hand over the edge. It's freezing, she said, removing her fingers from the flames. Though so soft and smooth, I can hear them calling me, singing so sweetly, calling me down, Hilda! Shouted Voluspa, snapping the girl out of her reverie. I see the howling cauldron has taken a liking to you. But as I said, now is not the time. Hilda glimpsed inside the well. The time for a finger to snap, and felt an invisible snake strangle her. She was assaulted with a physically painful vision of Hedil and Kyoko laughing together on a beach. Then she saw herself under a full moon in the grove on Vigrid Plains. She couldn't remember this moment with Hedil. Is it the future? Her lover had bloody claws and used them to tear her apart. Voluspa pulled her away. I told you not to stare into hell's throat. You said nothing about hell, replied Hilda, gasping for air, avoiding eye contact with the flames. She placed trembling hands on her knees, gathered her wits and said, However, you did mention that now was not the time. The time for what exactly? Voluspa remained silent and stared at the well. If I told you, I'm not sure you could stomach it. Try me. I've seen what you're capable of. The visions and the art of the mist don't frighten me. The undead that live across the realms do not concern me. Your ghoulish creatures in the forest could drain my blood at any time I come to see you. But they never do they? So please, Voluspa, tell me what the icy flames are singing and what they want from me. Voluspa gazed at the crawling roots behind the ceiling. She pursed her lips and made up her mind. The cauldron, Hilda, is indeed calling for you. There's something special about you. Something your kind are oblivious to. And I think you may have guessed that already. The Huldra can see it. And so can I. You aren't a Huldra? Asked Hilda, while enjoying such praise. I haven't always been one. Call me a Norn if you wish. I am the Norn monarch who guards this well, said Voluspa. The other Norns and I have foreseen you accomplishing great things. Such as? Have you ever desired to manipulate the mist yourself? To raise the dead and command the living? I already do that. No, we do that for you, Voluspa underlined. About that, what's the point in bringing back the dead on such a large scale if I'm not there to enjoy the result? It isn't our fault you get yourself killed, or occasionally try to off yourself. Fornicating on the battlefield isn't the brightest of ideas either, especially when you can't stop repeating the same mistake. If I can't remember the error, then how am I to correct it? Said Hilda, feeling morose again. She had often envisioned putting an end to her depressing life, but never really went through with it. Or so she had thought. Were you actually messing with me? Why don't you just leave us all to die after 100th bloody battle? Then there wouldn't be anyone left to burn down your festering forest. The 9 Norns respect your feeble blackmail attempts, Hilda. But you have to understand, they are futile. Our plans align with yours, said Voluspa, turning her back on Hilda to stare into the flames. This might interest you. One of our acolytes saw a dark-haired girl, dressed as a raven, with green scales. She left her land of fire on board a golden ship, and she is on her way, ready to shatter your world. Hilda instantly thought of Asmund's slave with her white bearskin coat and green shiny buttons. When pigs fly over the haunting moon, she said glumly, Hilda, I know you aspire to greatness, to reach beyond your mundane existence of a king's daughter. You are fond of the legends of the Valkyries, are you not? The judges of valor over the sacred battlefield. Who isn't? Well, I appreciate that aspect of your folklore more than most. Do you know where you are right now? in the Needhogger's ballsack. Amusing. We are actually inside one of the 3 gigantic bloody roots of the almighty ash tree. Odin's sacred tree, according to the pious. We are in fact on the fringe of life and death, of hell and Valhalla. The cauldron is the gateway, and I'll have you know, it can unlock the Valkyrie within you, if you're truly worthy, and unleash the occult powers pumping throughout this ash tree's phloem. Only the bravest can wield the power of Bloody Oath. The bravest, and perhaps the most insidious. Insidious? Without mischief, where would we acquire any sense of ambition in life? And beyond? Without cold-blooded vision and devastating strength, how would we guide the weak? I thought that the Cauldron Dragon seek to eradicate all evil in all the realms. I said the dragon wasn't inside the well, said Voluspa, stroking the skin on her neck that appeared to be scaly for the blink of an eye. Hilda preferred to believe Voluspa was pulling her leg. What would I have to do to get a little taste of that power? Didn't think you'd resist the temptation. To be blunt, if you want a glimpse of what the Order has to offer, you would have to throw yourself into the fire. And if you survive the test, we will need you to learn our ways and be completely honest with us. Honesty goes both ways, said Hilda, less concerned about the idea of self-sacrifice. The Scullycomb effects had perhaps not fully worn out. Who are Hedil's parents? And why wouldn't you tell me? Have you been spying on us? Hilda, we have nothing to hide. We do your bidding, and consequently, we've become quite familiar with the people we keep resuscitating. We are offering you more than Hellsots, and more than a frightened little girl's dreams. The Order of the Mist could grant you the power to rule over the realms of men. Don't tell me this doesn't interest you. Or am I just a delusional old hag selling fake golden apples? Hilda instinctively hid her satchel behind her back. In life, it is important that you learn certain realities on your own. They will sculpt your psyche and help it flourish. Experience casts a brighter light than force-fed knowledge. Believe me. Oh, enlightening. So what's the catch? Asked Hilda. Your ascension to power obviously helps us. But you'll find out sooner than later all you need to know. When you are ready, Hilda, and you realize your loved ones are nothing but distractions, then come to us. scar your forehead and chest the way I showed you, and run back to me. We will be waiting for you, little Hilda. What is happening? Thought Hilda. Her childish dreams of becoming an angel of life and death felt like they were at her fingertips, and yet the excitement was beginning to fester. I fear something I've always wanted when it's finally within my grasp. And if you want the Order of the Mist to assist you again, said Voluspa, handing out a small leather vial, then we'll be expecting more commitment. Time to leave, Princess. Voluspa disappeared in a blur behind the cauldron. Hilda couldn't say if Voluspa had actually slipped through a trapdoor or transformed into something else entirely. It had happened so quickly. The flames must have deformed Voluspa's movements and given them a reptilian aspect. Hilda didn't ponder on the mystery and hurried away from the well. She skipped up the long spiral stairs and tunnels and hoped she wouldn't get lost. Her sense of direction was impeccable, and she always tried to spot specific landmarks that would lead her home when she was out and about. But the caves were a maze, and a few tunnels struck her as familiar. On her way up, she realized she must have been off track. Through the crack of a metallic open door, she saw a series of rectangles producing blinding blue light next to huge metal chests, buzzing and purring with multiple colored flickering dots. Hilda decided she would investigate that oddity another day, especially after hearing the scary sound of wolves close by. On the doorstep of Bloody Hoof Caves, Hilda felt giddy. The smell of pines replaced the scent of sodden fur and rotten droppings from the caves, and she sighed with relief. Pine cones or acorns fell beside her, and Hilda jumped when she saw the boy with obsidian hair perched on a branch above her. These stab apples will heal you. One day. Soon he dropped another green heart that fell into her hands, and he fled into the forest, pouncing from bough to bough. You might be useful one day, Sunne, said Hilda softly to herself. Crossing Nebelwood shouldn't be such a challenge now, if that old dragon can be trusted. While Voluspa was nowhere to be found in the roots of the giant ash tree, ghostly singing began to pour from the howling cauldron. These are the dreams of the 9 sisters under the leaves of the bloody ash. These are the moans from the Fear not the flames or the teeth that gnash. See you next time for another chapter of the Hilton Chronicles.